I felt strongly for a couple of years now that my 44th year was going to be super duper important and literally life changing for me. And I feel like it's time to set some shit on fire, right? And if we look at the numerology of 44, which I know we're going to get into, but it feels like I have laid this foundation. I've done all of this work for all of this healing. And now it is literally time to step up into my power in a way I have not done previously. And it's like all of these things I've been manifesting, all of these seeds that I've planted, shit's about to bloom. It feels really good.
I agree. I think it's significant too in the sense that when you listen to your own guidance and intuition, that will never steer you wrong. And I think that different years mean different things. And I have found that there are certain birthdays where I haven't necessarily reflected or gone through the motions. It just was what it was. I just went through the motions, especially in some of, my 30s. After having children, I think you tend to overlook your own birthday because you're focused on the kids and you're focused on their needs. And it's kind of, you take a back seat. And I feel very strongly that since we have started this podcast, but when I started my spiritual awakening, and we've been putting a lot of intention and a lot of energy behind our ideas, our creativity, giving ourselves self-care. It takes that to another level in the sense that, I think it's really powerful that you're able to take that energy that you're feeling about this 44th year and amplify it because you're listening to yourself. You're listening to that guidance. You know that this is going to take place.
Well, and it feels like this is no longer about pivoting or striving or surviving. This is about trusting that what I've built is strong enough to hold who I'm about to become. And that is the biggest takeaway for me this year, is that I have to trust that everything I've built is strong enough to support me and allow myself to become that next version of who I'm going to be, because there's a lot of shit that I am ready to shed.
Is there a significant story or an event or a meditation or some sort of download that came into your brain that gave you this information about this 44th year? Or has it been a combination and a cumulation of?
I think it's been a cumulative effect, but at one point I do remember seeing the number 44 pop up. And this was probably 2020-ish. And thinking to myself, this is going to be important. And the podcast was nowhere, not even a thought in the ether at all at that point.
Mm-mm.
At least not in our conscious thought.
Correct.
And it just is wow, so much has happened over the past 5 years that I would never have expected. And life is blooming in this really beautiful way. And so I don't feel like there's one specific download that I got other than having this striking moment of just feeling this is going to be great, whatever it is. And I knew that 2024 was going to be a year of change and of things having to fall away in order for the new to be built.
Same.
And I remember in the beginning of 2024, everybody was like, oh my God, I'm so worried. There was so much fear around things crumbling and old systems crumbling. And I was like, I'm here for it.
I didn't have any fear.
It was a lot. If you looked into astrology, there was a lot of fear surrounding it.
Well, again, fear for me is false evidence appearing real. Right. Anytime that, and it still rears its head all the time. But I'm always, always, always quick to be false evidence appearing real. What is it about whatever I'm feeling about this fear that I need to break down? And in 2024, I was in a place that the chaos, I was like, let's fucking go. But I wasn't afraid of the chaos. And I wasn't afraid of not trusting my team of light to support me. I was like, I can remember this exact moments last year in April when all of these weird, significant things were happening to us, my family, like the TV falling off the wall. I was
just thinking that.
Getting the flat tire in your driveway, the tree falling on our fence, the backyard flooding in this fucking weird way that had never flooded before. And I was like, what What? Why?
Yeah, but wait, hold on. Let's look at some of the things that have occurred this week. I want to talk about something. You're talking about a whole year ago. Some of this stuff happened. This week, you acquired a new car. You had the concrete fixed around the outside where all this weird flooding was happening. And we weirdly got a new TV mount. So, like, small synchronicities, but still, like, you're seeing things come full circle from where they were April of 2024.
Yes. But in those moments, what I was trying to like articulate is the fact that I wasn't in a place of woe is me. Because my husband at one point, when the TV fell, because that was weird. That was
I remember
weird.
that call.
That was weird. And he was like, what the fuck did I do? And I was like, you didn't do anything. This is happening for us. And he was like, shut up. Because like the TV
Calm
fell.
down, Tony Robbins.
Yeah, and like the TV did not recover from that fall, right? And then the tire. And remember when he had to come rescue us? And I was like, Jeff, and he was like also just giving me that like shut up vibe, like shut up, you know. And I was like, okay, but there's always full circle moments. There's always the ability to reflect, and I think that celebrating your 44th year, and we can get into the significance behind the numbers. I just think it's cool. And it's a testament to you that you are keeping a hold of those downloads when they happen, and in a way that allows you to know that you're moving into this year on this path.
Well, I'm working on myself in a way that I've never worked on myself in the past. I might have scraped the surface at some of these things, but I'm really digging deep into my power, and the universe has presented me with a lot of my past that I needed to confront and stand in my power about. And I've done that. And I've done that as recently as 2 days ago. You know, it is like me trusting myself. And that's what this whole year and this whole journey in this cycle is about right now, is trusting myself. And I also realized that I've been listening to a lot of like abundance audiobooks and things like that, and listening to different people talk about it, because everybody kind of has their own take, right? And I realized that I don't have a fear of putting myself out there. I don't have a fear of being unordinary.
Unique.
Unordinary? Uncommon. Rare. I don't have a fear of being rare.
That word's going to come up here in a minute.
Oh, shit. But I do have, and I'm shedding this, or did have, a deep-seated fear of being successful. And it came from watching people in my life be successful and then lose everything they had on repeat in the same cycle. And so I realized that those things that I witnessed had manifested into a very few layers deep. Well, and it was this book I was listening to, and it was actually talking about manifesting money, right? And they were talking about you might say, yes, I deserve to earn X amount of dollars and have all these affirmations. And you might believe that, but you also have a secondary belief that is your fear of something. And in that moment, I realized I have a secondary belief, or had a secondary belief in fear of being successful. And so I'm currently working on kicking that the fuck out of my life.
Right.
Because it ultimately, and this is it's all what I'm working on right now, is entering my divine flow, right? Being in flow. I have existed in this space, and really this was rooted for me in being a single mom, was that at that time, I went right into my divine masculine. I had to be in the zone. I had to make sure that I had all of my shit together, because my daughter was depending on me, and I couldn't let her down. I had to be all the things. And so it put me in a state, though, of a little bit of a scarcity mentality, because there was fear of okay, am I going to be able to do this? Right. And it's okay, well, if you want to, you need to pull back. You need to make sure that you are making smart choices. And all of those things led me to being out of my divine feminine flow.
And it's easy to get out of flow.
So easy, especially when you're in a world that's all about progressing forward, moving forward in terms of your material or financial perceived success or abundance.
Right.